Hey everyone, Denise here from Sewlimitless, and in today's video I want to talk to you about pattern tracing. I know some people do it, some don't do it ever. I do it sometimes, and I wanted to show you what I use. Also, I want to show you when I make what I call like a more permanent pattern, and what I use to trace that with. So let's get started. First of all, let me welcome you back to the channel if you are returning. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Denise, and I share my sewing journey here on this channel, whether it is patterns that I do pattern reviews or fabric hauls or techniques, things that I actually do that I think may help some of you out there as well. So today I wanted to talk about pattern tracing. Now, this is not something that I've always done, but there was a time when you could get several patterns. Patterns were on sale for 99 cents a pattern, and so it really wasn't that big of a deal whether or not you traced a pattern or not. But now that patterns are more expensive, and if you are like me, you've had to actually repurchase some patterns on eBay or Etsy that you didn't trace and you wish you had. But I wanted to share some of the things that I use. My example is going to be this wardrobe builder t-shirt by Wardrobe by Me, which I have right here. I'll show you because I know you can't see it. One of the things that I use, this is 24-inch by 50 yards of white tracing paper. I will leave a link. I buy this on Amazon. I will leave a link to this down below. Now, if I am making something, let me just show you what I've done here. This is the pattern piece that I've recently worked with. I've done my adjustments and everything like that. That's the front piece. If I am, as I said, making something a more permanent pattern, I like to use the Swedish tracing paper. And that's the label on that. And like I said, I will leave some links below. I believe there'll be affiliate links. Some may or may not be, but I'll let you know about that. If I am doing a pattern, especially honestly, if I know it's not going to fit right out of the envelope, I will generally trace it. I find it much easier to use this paper that I can use for my pattern adjustments. That is what I've done here. I did trace this, but then I needed to make adjustments like a full bust adjustment. And this is the back piece here. This is one of these patterns where you have many options. I find it easier personally to trace them. And when I trace them, I use a variety of different Sharpies, different colors. And I have the thicker ones and the thinner ones. I use a variety of those. That is if I'm using this paper, because it will not bleed through on this. That's actually the other reason that I like using this paper. If I'm using the Swedish tracing paper, actually I use a regular ballpoint pen because it will write smoothly. I can't use the Sharpies on it because it does bleed through. Not a gel pen, because sometimes that catches when I'm trying to trace like a long line. Regular ballpoint pen on the Swedish tracing paper. I do like the Sharpies for the regular white tracing paper because it's bold and I can see it. Because when you get older, you need to make sure that you can see what you're actually doing. So that is why I like to use the Sharpies, and I usually color coordinate that particular pattern. So if I'm going to do something, one pattern, I'll do it all in orange. If I make adjustments to that pattern, I will often use a different color, so I know that things have been adjusted. So that's actually my process for pattern tracing. But I also want to talk to you about when I have made those corrections and it fits me great, and I just want to have a more durable pattern. That's when I will use the Swedish tracing paper. This one's almost empty as well. The reason I do that is because it is more expensive. So I like to make sure I do always have a roll of this, but I don't use it as often. just because, like I said, it is more expensive. So I just kind of like to save this for those patterns that I've adjusted everything, I've gotten it to fit, and it's something that I make a lot. For example, the t-shirt. So that is what I'm going to talk to you about next. Okay, so I just wanted to give you like a quick little demonstration of what I'm talking about. So this is the Swedish tracing paper here. And if you're familiar with it, it's sort of like a fabric. So it's good if you are wanting to keep a pattern sort of as almost like a permanent type of pattern, a more durable pattern. What I'm going to do, and I hope the table doesn't shake too much because the camera's connected to the table here, but I just want to show you real quick. I just use a regular cheapo pen, and it's just a ballpoint pen, and I will just trace over the pattern onto the paper. And I don't always use a ruler. In fact, I usually don't, except for like these long stretches here. And I will just simply trace. And like I said, I usually do this freehand, which is fine because I cut it out straight. And I will just trace all around. I will make sure to label everything so I know the size and the pattern that I traced, and I keep it in the envelope. Like, I still will not get rid of this pattern here. I still will have this one. So, like I said, that is basically it. This is the piece that I traced. I know you can't really see the lines. There you go. I just use a regular pen if I'm using this Swedish tracing paper, because anything else I've tried bleeds through, and that really drives me nuts because I don't want to mark up my table that I use. So I just use a regular ballpoint pen when I'm using that. But now I have this piece is the piece that I traced, and you can see all the alterations that were done on this particular piece. But now I've got, all I have to do is cut this one out, and I've got what is a much more durable pattern. And you know, this is sewable, so it's much more like a fabric than a paper. This, as I said, this is when I'm tracing a regular pattern just to make alterations. I just find this much easier to keep the original pattern as is, and then if I'm hacking a pattern or making any kind of alterations, I like to do that on the pattern piece that I traced. That way I always have the original intact, because you never know, I might want to go back to that. Plus, like I said, patterns are more expensive now, so I don't want to have to keep repurchasing. So this paper also comes in a 12-inch, which I also have. So that one is for smaller pieces. This one is good for those wider pieces. It's actually good for most pattern pieces, the length of this. So that's what I use. And so, like I said, let me know down in the comments if you trace patterns, if you've ever traced a pattern, or if you just rather not bother. I know a lot of people just rather not be bothered with it. But like I said, those are my reasons that I've given you for why I like to do it. As I said, I have repurchased several patterns because I really like them, but I had cut them out and it was just too difficult trying to figure out how to make a different size. It's just easier. I've never regretted tracing a pattern. I've only regretted not tracing a pattern. So that is what I always have in the back of my mind. So even though it takes a little bit more time, for me, it's always been worth it. So let me know in the comments if you've ever traced a pattern, if you do that or whatever. And thank you for watching. That's it for this little video. But I thank you all for watching. I appreciate you. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.